This is the Gutsy Health Podcast with Juanique and Tristin and Juanique. Hey guys, welcome back to the Gutsy Health Podcast.
Hello, everybody.
Tristin still has his lost voice, so we're going on about a month now, right?
Yeah,
but he's probably going to be doing a lot of the talking today.
maybe.
Doesn't this kind of feel like the season finale?
The cliffhanger.
the cliffhanger. This is the season finale of the Gutsy Health Podcast. Just kidding.
So honestly, this is an episode we've wanted to record for a long time, but literally the day after we decided to do it, my voice disappeared.
Right.
So
we've been waiting for it to come back.
Kept waiting, and at this point, looks like we might be in this for the long haul, so we just have to go with it.
We'll just go with it. Otherwise, we'll be waiting months and months. And
maybe.
right.
Hopefully not, but we just can't count on it. So.
You're right, exactly. So you have sultry Tristin voice right now.
and it's kind of exhausting too. So
it is. It
toward
really
the
is.
end, I might be talking even quieter, but we'll see.
What's our episode on today?
This episode is kind of
2020 in a recap. Like
sort of. It's
the shit show this year has been.
yeah. It's where we finally tell everybody what's been going on behind the scenes all year.
Yeah,
because we haven't talked about it.
We haven't, and most of our family don't even know. And so, like, it's just one of those things where we're just like, we don't want to talk about it, and now we're just gonna get it out there.
Yep.
And just go, like, so, man, 2020 was rough. Do you remember, like, my mom came over January 5th and she was like, hey, I've been diagnosed with breast cancer. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That's how we started our year.
And to be honest, like, things had started blowing up
before
then.
Yeah, like a few weeks before then. But
that was kind of the Happy New Year.
But spoiler alert, she doesn't have breast cancer. It was a misdiagnosis. So that was like
some good stuff did happen this year. That was one of the good things.
That was one of the great things where it was like, psych, it's just cysts in her breasts. So yay. But how far back do we want to go? December 2019?
We should probably start in December. In fact, I was thinking about this today.
We should probably go back like October when the chambers shut down.
Well,
so
we can. I mean,
that's when like the stress just really hit. So October 2019, Doppel shut down our hyperbaric chambers. And that was super stressful. And we had to lawyer up and we were back and forth with negotiations. And turns out they don't even know their own laws around hyperbaric chamber operations. Right. And so
because
they were
aren't any.
There are none. So they're making things up as they go.
Yes.
So here I had to spend like hours and hours of research showing them like, hey, like this is how other facilities run chambers. Right. Why are you creating a golden standard that doesn't exist? And it really just turned out to be that they just didn't like us. Well, and they're like, you're not doctors. And we're like, yes, but, but look at the laws in other states and look at the policies.
We actually did an episode on that. So
no, we didn't. But
I swear we did in like November.
No, we didn't. We were really quiet about it. Anyway. So that happened. And so we had to shut down the chambers. And, one of our dearest clients died in December. That was super heartbreaking.
Well, lots of people died.
Between
November and the end of January.
Right. Like a lot of our cancer clients who were doing amazing.
Yeah, I mean, not even just clients, but friends. People
People
who we'd known since I got diagnosed, basically.
Right. So. Oh my gosh. Right. Yeah. So December hits, and do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So actually, I was thinking about this earlier. We like right after Thanksgiving last year, we went on Woke with Wesley's podcast.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
And we were basically telling her story, and I remember at one point she asked me something like, so do you feel like you're done? Do you feel like it's over?
I remember that moment because I felt it too.
What'd you feel?
Huh? Like, so is it all gone? Are we all done? And we're like, we hope so.
Right.
We hope.
So the truth was that I never felt like I was done.
Mm-hmm.
The whole time there was always this, just this knowing in the back of my head that like, there's more to come. There's more to do with this.
Yeah.
And then like literally right after that episode that we recorded, it hadn't gone live yet, but right after we recorded it,
like a week later or something,
I got sick. It was, some kind of cold or flu or something.
Yeah.
And I started wheezing when I was breathing.
Right.
And that traumatized me really badly.
Yeah.
Can people hear me? I feel like I'm losing it really quickly here. But I developed really severe anxiety about this because, the last that we had known, the active cancer had been in my lungs.
Right.
Right. So the anxiety I had was actually never about my bowels where it started. It was always about my lungs.
The lungs.
Where it ended.
Right.
And so developing a symptom in my lungs, which was the
Right.
wheezing, and I was also getting shortness of breath, feeling like I was having a hard time breathing.
Right.
It was terrible. I was having panic attacks.
Yeah.
Right. Although they were very mild at the time. I didn't realize that.
Right. Right.
Then what?
Where are we still in December
We are still
of
in
2019?
Yeah.
You then told me, and the wheezing would come and go, and it was just really scary. And someone else, a friend that was living with us at the time, she had wheezing too. She got sick, so we're like, maybe it's just that, it's nothing. And it's funny because fast forward to like, I don't know, was it March when we recorded with Ryan Blazer? And
Was it March?
I don't know, but I remember listening. We were recording a podcast episode, and was during that podcast episode where I went to mass panic mode because I was listening to you talking, and I'm like, something's wrong.
Oh yeah, because I was struggling.
It hit me. I'm like, there's something wrong. Like something's up. And that's when we started talking about it more. I was like, hey, are you still wheezing? And you were like, yes. And I was like, this is very bad.
Yeah.
And so did some blood work. We didn't check cancer markers, nothing like that, but there were some inflammatory markers that were up, some red flags.
Some crazy eye inflammation.
Mm-hmm. And I want listeners to understand, when you think of your cancer friends, when you think of your cancer family members, please recognize the amount of trauma these people experience in their lives, because a cancer diagnosis isn't just a cancer diagnosis. It's a horrific experience. It's tons of fear. It's, your life flashing before your eyes every single day.
Obviously, everyone's going to be different about this, right? People
Right.
have different perspectives on life and death and all that.
Right.
But what you're basically doing when you get a cancer diagnosis is taking on the entire burden of our society's
Right.
fear
And anxiety around it.
cancer and death.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like people, but your own as well, right? Like you're taking
Absolutely.
on your anxiety, you're taking on other people's anxiety. It's just mass emotional hysteria.
There's this societal story about cancer.
Mm-hmm.
They call it the emperor of all maladies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that just gives you an idea of like, this is the one that everybody fears whenever
Right.
they get a symptom.
Right.
And when you get diagnosed, that story that our society holds around cancer
Right.
becomes your story.
Totally. Well, and not even that, but the appointments with oncologists is just traumatizing.
Yeah.
The treatments are traumatizing.
For sure.
I mean, the surgeries are traumatizing. The waiting in the hospitals, like your 8-hour surgery, like that was so hard. But I mean, you were the one under the knife. That was hard. You recovering from that surgery,
Well, it's hard for everyone.
Like the point saying is, people are probably wondering, like, why didn't we check faster? Why didn't we check sooner? And it's because trauma is sometimes heavier than cancer. Like trying to run through that door, like that door frame of trauma, is the hardest thing that some people do. And that was us. We just couldn't face it. We were so scared.
And I know that makes us a little bit hypocritical, because we get on here every week and we talk about health stuff and we try to empower people with all these tools and
Right.
knowledge.
Right.
And here we are. Here I am,
Paralyzed with
literally
fear.
not able to look at my own stuff.
Paralyzed. I do want to say something to that, though. The reason why we started this podcast, the reason why I just started talking on a platform to begin with, the reason why we are here is because I hope that when people hear this message, it's a course correction.
Yeah.
That maybe you would have gotten cancer in 5 years or 10 years,
Right.
maybe, but you're not anymore, because you're changing your lifestyle, because you're changing the food that you are nourishing your body with. You're changing your stress. You are giving your body what it needs to thrive. This is why we do this. This is because disease is so much more than a dollar bill. Right. It is endless nights of like restlessness and sleeplessness. It is body shaking, tremors. It is, there's this joke actually in the cancer circles called, what is it? I can't even remember. I think it's like scanxiety or like, I think it's called, appointment poops, where once you're done with an appointment with a doctor, you immediately go to the bathroom and you just like empty out your bowels because you are that like I've had so many people that have spoken about that too. Where I'm just like right after an oncology appointment, like you just run to the bathroom because you have the runs. Like you are literally traumatized on every cell. Yeah. Like every cellular level is just in freak out mode.
And the terrible thing about that is that anxiety and that fear is inflammatory.
It is.
It contributes to the exact thing that you are afraid of.
Right. And so this is why we talk, because I never want people to go through this. I never want people's kids to go through what our kids have gone through. You know, I never want another wife out there to have to go through what I've gone through. I've never want another spouse to go out there to go through what Tristin has gone through. Like, this is why we here. This is why we're here. Yeah. This is why we show up every day. This is why we pride ourselves on giving so much free knowledge so that this won't be you, that this won't be your child, that this won't be your spouse, that this won't be your parent. Right. You can change your health. Right. You have that power. And you go ahead.
We also, when we started this, like our whole point was that we're not special.
No.
We're not these experts who are endowing you with wisdom.
No.
We are just like
normal people.
From the same place that you come from. We've educated ourselves using the same tools available to everybody.
Exactly.
We don't have MDs. We don't even have PhDs.
Right.
So I guess it's fitting now that we're still in the middle of this.
Yeah.
Because that's who we are. We're just like you.
Right. We're just like you. So anyways, March happens. Fast forward to July.
Yeah, I mean that whole first half of the year
was
a big, traumatic, messy blur.
It was.
It went so slowly.
It was.
But there's very little to report about it because it was the same thing every single day.
It was like symptoms coming and going. It was really weird.
Fear, anxiety, trauma.
Mm-hmm. Panic attacks.
Trying to look the other way.
Mm-hmm. So many panic attacks. Like I actually like hired a therapist this year. Like I was one of those people. I'm like, oh, who needs therapy? I'm like, oh, I do. I need therapy. But go ahead.
No, so I mean, I can't even tell you how many nights I spent just laying awake. Actually, not even laying, like sitting on the couch, listening to my heart feel like it's about to explode out of my chest.
Right.
And honestly, not sure if I'm going to survive the night.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty convinced I'm having a heart attack.
Right.
Obviously it was a panic attack, not a heart attack, but so many nights of that. It was awful.
Yeah. And I mean, we had a doctor say you need to go get screened for PTSD. We're like, why? We already know it's PTSD. Like, what are you talking about?
Telling someone that has PTSD that they need to go talk about their PTSD.
It's like,
it's very silly.
Like that's really cute of you to recommend that. But
there's a reason why the dropout rates for PTSD treatment are so high.
Right.
It's because unless you are willing to show up at their house and literally like corner them and make them figure it out, they're going to avoid it. That's literally what PTSD does.
That's what you do. So fast forward to July, I finally convinced you to get some blood work done.
Yeah, so we finally looked at cancer markers. There's one very specific marker that is relevant to colorectal cancer. Mm-hmm. It's called CEA, carcinoembryonic antigen. Mm-hmm. I agreed to get it tested. Now, to give you some context, back when I was going through treatments, my CEA peaked at about 8.6.
Oh, was it?
That was the highest it ever got. Mm-hmm. That was actually right before we started treatments.
Right.
We didn't really check it in the middle of treatments.
No, we didn't.
But at the end of everything, it was down like 1.9.
Yeah. And then we checked it, and then July came, and we checked, and it was higher than that.
When we checked in July, it was already at 14. Mm-hmm. So already almost double the highest it had ever been.
Right. But what's really interesting, though, is this is where the journey actually begins for us, is we now have this knowledge. Now it's, it's go time. It's like, okay, we finally like looked at that demon. and I think I've actually explained this on one of the podcasts. This is what cancer felt like to me. Is I'm in a glass house and it's dark, and and there's lights inside the house, but there's no lights outside this house, this glass house.
Yeah.
You can't see out, but people can see in. You're like a fish in a fishbowl, and there's eyes on the outside of the house looking in.
That's a very scary image.
That is cancer to me.
Yeah.
And now I have finally turned the lights on outside, and I can see it, and it's there. Oh. And it's like, like you can sense that they're looking, and now the lights are on. It's like, oh shit, here we are. My biggest fear has just been realized.
Yeah, honestly, for me, it was actually relieving.
Really?
To find out that it was actually there, because there was no more guessing.
Yeah.
There was no more telling myself the stories.
Yeah.
Now I could just see what was there.
Yeah.
So, using your little metaphor, like seeing what the monster looked like was actually less scary than imagining what the monster looked like.
Right.
Which obviously doesn't mean that all of a sudden everything was okay. I was still a mess, but my panic attacks actually started very gradually decreasing from that point.
Right.
We had some low points though, but right after that, we went to Bear Lake.
Yeah.
Do you remember that day we went to the caves? I don't remember what they're called.
I do.
There's a lot of stairs in those caves.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to die.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I was having this terrible asthma attack, and I was just going to stop breathing right there in the cave.
Well, and what's interesting is that was your very first symptom of, like, other than the wheezing, it's like, oh, your health is, the shortness of breath. It's like, okay, here it is.
That was really the first time though that I realized, oh, like this is really intense. Like this isn't just someone who's out of shape.
Yeah.
This is like,
can't breathe.
I mean, there are like 80-year-old people in that cave doing better than I was doing.
To be fair, you were holding Satori part of the time. Remember that she fell asleep?
She fell asleep, yeah, but still.
Yeah.
Anyway, but that was kind of a low point to say, oh wow, this is real.
Yeah.
Right? This isn't just numbers. So when I got diagnosed initially, I didn't really have symptoms.
Yeah.
Right? All I had was difficulty pooping.
Yeah. But originally, like 4 years ago when you got diagnosed.
Yeah, I was at my fitness peak at the time.
Yeah.
And I was sleeping great for the few hours I would let myself sleep. And so this actually experiencing symptoms was a very new, real, and sobering experience.
We haven't even spoken about like the stress of the business this year. Like, oh my gosh, like on top of all of this panic from like January to July, like Provo Health just blew up. Which we are so grateful. And we're not business people, right? So we're like ideas people, and we're educators. And so trying to figure out the business aspect and trying to serve so many people, and then hiring and then training and then figuring out better systems.
Well, we didn't even really start hiring until well into that whole process. So for several months, it was us.
It was us doing everything.
All day long and all night long.
All night long.
I remember one point in like May where it was like 11 o'clock at night, and I've been working all day long on this, trying to get something set up so that we can make things more efficient in the business.
Yeah.
And you, Juanique, came to me and you're like, I'm really frustrated because we are not connecting. And I knew that we weren't connecting.
Right.
And in that moment, I felt so defeated because I knew that I literally had nothing left in me.
Yeah.
And I was basically looking at this impossible choice between, do I let this business just completely fall to rubble?
Right.
Or do
and
I
let hundreds of people down?
Or do I let my family and marriage fall to rubble?
Right.
And it was awful.
Yeah.
And I remember actually thinking in that moment, this is why I'm sick.
Yeah.
Not because of you, but because I've put myself in this situation where I am
not taking care of yourself.
I am just infinitely depleted.
Yeah.
And there is no light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
So once again, finding out just a couple months later that cancer was back and active. It's like, yeah, of course it is.
And I think the hardest thing about this too is our business is our baby. It's not just a moneymaker. It is a soul. It is a spiritual calling, to help people feel their best in their bodies. That to me is so important. So it's not just about money in, money out, you know, like that's why it was so important that we get this running so that people can feel the love from the services, right? But our systems were just overwhelmed and messy. And you guys, this is going to turn probably into a long podcast, but can we just, everyone that has worked with us, can you just recognize for a second, Tristan's sister, Brittany, who is our office manager, she has showed up so hard. Like this woman was a full-time mom, and come like May, you know, like I think one of our employees was leaving. He was going to medical school, and we're like, oh my gosh, we don't know what we're going to do. And Tristan's sister, Brittany, was like, I'm here for it. And she knew something was up, like she could sense it, and she could sense our overwhelm. And, you know, and she was like, I'm here to do whatever. And she just took on everything. She took on office managing. She helped me with like everything. If there was a system broken, like she took all the complaints for it. Like she's the complaints department. She's the organizer. She's the interviewer. She's everything. And it's so sweet too, because, you know, sometimes, you know, when people are sick, they don't feel good. And when they don't feel good, they don't feel happy. And when they don't feel happy, they call our office and they start yelling at our staff. And Brittany just takes it. Yeah. She takes it with a smile. And she's like, we are so sorry that happened. We're trying to make this better for you. Let's see what we can do for you. And she always just shows up. So if you've ever worked with Brittany, just say a silent thank you for her, because without her, like, I'm pretty sure Provo helped, because there was a point where we'll come to that. We're jumping the gun. But anyway, so Brittany hopped on, we started employing other people, and we reached a point where, you know, it's funny because healing to me is very intuitive. And it's, you know, first time round 4 years ago, it was research, know everything you can, like learn everything you can about this cancer, about this body, about the human body. What do we need to do? What are the clinics doing? What are the big guns doing? Like, what is it? And this time round, I ordered the books. I went on the websites and nothing. There was nothing. I would start reading the books and I'm like, there's nothing here. Like we both felt very called to deal with the trauma of the cancer. We're like, you know what? We've done all the things. We've checked all the boxes. We've done all the big guns. We know all the big people. Like, we need to go in. We took a little bit of an unconventional approach. So back to July, find out cancer. August rolls around. Tristan goes to kind of like a healing retreat. He's in Hawaii. And so we basically told our staff, like, Tristan's taking on no more clients. Like, I'm taking his clients. I'm taking my clients. Like, don't ask him for anything. Like, we're done. He's done. Like, no one bothers Tristan anymore. You talk to Brittany, you talk to me, and we will try and figure this out. We're not as smart as Tristan, but we're going to figure this out. So you went to Hawaii.
Yeah. So I went to a spiritual retreat in Hawaii for 2 weeks. And there was a lot of meditation, a lot of reading, but like spiritual reading, journaling, silence. In fact, the whole retreat was in silence, except for necessary conversation to like, you know, get food and things like that.
Right.
And plant medicine. Mm-hmm. And it was traumatic.
It was really intense.
Kind of following the theme of the whole year for me. The intensity of it was a little bit overwhelming. Yeah. So I spent most of that retreat actually re-traumatizing myself. Oh. And it was a good experience, but it was also a very, very difficult experience. And, you know, I went hoping that I would find answers, that I would be able to come back and know exactly what I needed to do, or that I would be free of all my fear. But that wasn't the case. In fact, in a lot of ways, I was maybe more fearful than ever. I had some really good intentions, and I did have some really good insights. But really starting with the traveling home from Hawaii, it was really hard on me. If any of you have been to Hawaii, you know that some of the flights can be very, very difficult. especially during the time of COVID, there were hardly any flights. In fact, they canceled my flights and I was forced to reschedule at the last minute. So I ended up on these brutal red-eye flights that went literally through the night. And on the way back, I was also on this really long flight between Honolulu and Dallas, Texas. I was trapped between these two giant islanders, and I literally had no space. I was like crossing my arms in the seat just to not be cramped up against these big guys. And I couldn't sleep that whole night. And then I had a long layover in Dallas, followed by another long flight back to Salt Lake. By the time I got home, I was a mess. Like physically, I felt like I was just completely empty.
Yeah.
And I thought, this had happened to me before back in June. I'd gone through something similar. It took a few weeks and my body bounced back. So I thought, okay, this is just going to last, 2 or 3 weeks. Then I'll recover and I can start implementing all this great stuff that I thought about while I was in Hawaii. But 2-3 weeks came and went, and
no recovery.
No recovery. In fact, it was getting worse.
Well, and I think it's interesting because from like January to July, hanging there, we find the news. And I think this is how detrimental trauma is and stress is to the body, right? Because now we get slapped with the C card and you're not sleeping. And now we're in trauma mode, amped up.
Right.
And then things just went downhill super
Oh,
fast
it's probably important to mention that for most of the year,
you were doing great.
I was probably only averaging about 6, maybe 5 hours of sleep a night between all the stress of the business and the middle of the night panic attacks.
And COVID. Like, let's just throw in COVID there.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, we haven't mentioned COVID. For us, COVID was like a side note of the year.
Right.
Hardly the highlight or the headline that most people have experienced.
Right. The most annoying thing about COVID for us is just all the inner Karens that came out of people, like everyone's grumpy. Yay.
That actually was really hard because we were going through our own stuff, but everybody's having a rough year.
Yeah. Everyone's having a rough year.
It's not been an easy year for people to feel charity towards others. And a lot of people have done it anyway, which is beautiful.
So beautiful.
But it's hard this year.
So anyway, so you got back from that retreat and you were just wrecked.
Now we're into September.
Yeah.
And probably the lowest point that we've ever been.
So at this point, we still hadn't told family members. I mean, Brittany knew, your mom knew, my parents hadn't even known. You guys, we've done this before. We've done the whole cancer journey, share it on Facebook, share with friends, share. And it's exhausting. Yeah. It's super exhausting because, it's managing our stress and then other people's stress around it. We just didn't want that. It's not because there is no shame in this road. It's just, we are so tired. We're so tired. And we don't like negative mojo because as soon as people think cancer, they put a timeline on you. Right. And we don't want that subconscious mojo headed at us. That's just icky.
That was the number one thing for me. And this was very conscious on our part.
Very conscious.
Yes, there was trauma, but honestly, the number one reason was I did not want people's fear being placed on me. And
it's palpable.
I do believe in that. That may make me weird, but I do believe that we co-create with each other.
We totally
do.
And
that means that the emotions that we place onto each other, they do have power, which is not to say that I can't override everybody else's negative energy if I'm positive enough, but I knew I wasn't there. Right. I knew that I didn't have the ability to override a community of fear.
Right.
And so we kept it to ourselves.
Right. So anyway, September, he massively declined from August through to September. And I was scared shitless. There were times where I'm like, I don't know if he's going to make it to Christmas. It was really scary because at this point you were so stressed and your hair started falling out
clumps,
in large clumps. I started seeing that in the shower and I had this moment of, oh my gosh, he's so stressed. His hair's even falling out.
Well, here's what's interesting. It shifted from this terror type of fear to a desperate kind of fear.
Yeah.
Which was in a way scarier because it started to feel less like I'm scared of what's coming and more like I know what's coming, and that's really bad, right? Like this rejection of the future, but also a very clear vision of the future, which is in this case not a good thing.
Right.
So, as far as I understand too, everybody else was sensing that too.
Right.
And we were getting a lot of questions. Well, Juanique was getting a lot of questions. People apparently didn't want to talk to me about it, but people were worried about me.
Yeah, they were. Right. Long story short, we somehow, how did we find out about this other? So, because again, we're not talking to oncologists at this point. We're not getting scans because
no intention to either, because they had already told us they had done pretty much everything they could do for us. They had already told me that if I continue with chemo, which is literally the only tool they had, they might be able to extend my life a couple months.
There's experimental immunotherapies, but that's experimental.
There are trials where you have a 50% chance of getting a placebo.
Right.
And even if you don't get the placebo, there's a pretty decent chance that you're going to get some really gnarly side effects that kill you anyway.
And that's just not how we roll. Like, Tristan's not a lab rat.
If I'm going to die, that's not how I'm going to choose to go out.
Exactly.
I don't care about their science enough
to
make myself a statistic for them.
Exactly. And like Tristan said, they already told us 4 years ago, like, oh, he had 2 years to live, 5 at best. Like, if you're lucky, that's what the words were. If you're lucky, like all they have is chemo and surgeries and radiation and like things that just break down the body even more.
And if you really dig into the stats, especially with colorectal cancer, especially with rectal cancer, the chemo doesn't contribute a whole lot to the survival rates.
Yep. And you already did chemo.
3%, right?
Yep. And the metastases never changed. They never shrunk with the chemo, like nothing. If anything, you just got more metastases on the chemo.
Yeah. So once again, like, we're not the kind of people that are going to tell others, don't you ever, doctors,
never.
don't you ever do chemo.
Nope.
In our situation, with what we were facing,
what we had experienced, what we had researched with our circumstances, this is what we chose to do.
It just was not a useful card for us to play.
But what's interesting is we actually did interview quite a few doctors and just never felt the spark. And what's really funny too is people say, oh, like supplements are expensive. This is expensive. Like, spend $1,000 with a consult with an oncologist that is specialized in health. Like, and you talk to them for 45 minutes. Like, that's insult to injury. Some of our other cancer clients, they're like, to work with this doctor, you have to pay $18,000 per month just to be considered a client, a patient. Like, this is expensive. And it's so sad because when you have cancer, you're so desperate. Like, you're so desperate for that one thing, like that one saving grace. You'll pay anything. You'll sell whatever you have.
And I don't give a shit how good your cure is.
Yeah.
You have no business charging people so much money that they basically are willing to take out a second mortgage on their home, that they are willing to sell out their children's college fund, that they will literally give up everything to get this supposed cure. Yep. That's evil.
It's super
evil.
It's
and honestly, this is what the chemotherapy companies are doing anyway.
Yeah. We've
just figured out how to spread the costs out so that it's not obvious that that's what they're doing to us.
Right, exactly.
It makes me so mad.
It's really evil. So anyways, we interviewed some doctors, just, we're just like, no, do we go to Mexico? No. Do we, like, what are the things to do? And again, we're still grappling for the emotional aspect. It's like, what can we find that can just help penetrate the subconscious deep enough to do enough damage control?
So while I was in Hawaii, feeling the trauma and feeling very unsafe in my body, in the world, I had a conversation with someone that was very hopeful, because I asked them, is there anything that can help more in a gentle way, right?
Yeah.
Is there something that can help me with the trauma, with the emotional aspect of it,
right,
without re-traumatizing me?
Right.
And someone actually did give me some useful information. They said, oh, there are some plants. They're called heart openers.
Mm-hmm.
And these plants might be more your speed. They're gentle.
Right.
They're for soft people.
Yeah.
And so
soft people.
I came home from Hawaii saying, okay, I need to find this.
And you did.
And I had a conversation with my sister who happened to know somebody who knew somebody
Who knew someone
who could connect me with some of these heart openers. But we had to wait like a month.
Yeah,
right?
a few weeks.
And then that's when September happened. So
Yeah.
really, like, the one thing keeping me going through September
Yeah.
was knowing that there was this thing that I know very little about and
Yeah.
probably won't be that helpful.
But
Hey,
whatever.
at least it's a possibility.
It's something.
I can hang on until
Yeah.
the beginning of October.
Yeah. Now, beginning of October happens. We're just in manic depression, anxiety mode,
Yeah.
hopeless, broken. Both of us, you know, here at Tristin is just, I can see him deteriorating before my eyes.
Mhm.
I'm taking on his clients. I'm taking on my clients. I'm
Yeah.
trying to like run this business. I'm trying to like just keep everything at bay. Right.
Right.
And you end up at this retreat and talk about heart openers.
We both did.
We did. We both
I didn't
did.
go on this.
I
time.
went with him, and man, when they say heart opener, they're not even joking. Like
Yeah.
this is the most power. And I need to remind you guys, like this is like been so overshare, but I had been doing therapy for months and months and months every week. And she brought up so much good stuff. Like, okay, you're angry because of this, and you have this because of this. I'm like, awesome. Now what? Because I know in my brain that something's wrong,
Right.
but energetically and in my heart, like, how do I shift this? Like, because it is so deep and
Right.
it's so painful, right?
And knowledge is only half the battle.
Yeah, like knowledge is half of it, right? And then like when you've been dealing with trauma for so many years, how do you get in your body and feel safe to move it out?
Right.
Because like at this point, we were just so out of body and running on like anxiety fumes. It's
Right.
like, okay, what's my to-do list,
Well,
right?
and that's, one of our downfalls is that we're both smart people. We're both very intelligent. And so we've always relied on our intelligence to solve the problems.
Right.
And that works to a degree,
Yeah.
right? That can help you be successful in
Yeah.
school or business, whatever it is.
Right.
It doesn't do you a dang thing
No.
when it comes to matters of the heart.
Right.
So we were really fortunate to come across this particular modality. And what's really cool about it is that it's a group process,
Yeah.
which, by the way, was terrifying to us.
Yeah. Right.
We are not extroverts, right?
No.
We sit
It's
in a
like-
room by ourselves to record these episodes, and then y'all get a listen, and that's
Right,
great. But
right.
if we had to do it in front of 1,000 people,
We shut down.
I don't know if we would do that. So knowing that we were going to have to do this work in a group setting
Right.
was actually very scary.
very scary.
And once again, our desperation was what got us over that.
Totally. Like a year prior, we've been like, no, thanks. Nope.
We
So
showed
we
up.
were so desperate.
We showed up to this retreat the first day,
Mhm.
and we were both scared out of our minds.
Yep.
We're in this house with like 50 people.
Yep.
They all know and love each other. They're hugging and talking like best friends from childhood.
Yeah.
We're sitting in a corner, just looking at it all, going, "Is it too late for us to
To
back
leave.
out? Like maybe we should just sneak away."
But thank heaven we didn't, right? Because it was the thing that we had been looking for, like the thing that had been nagging at the subconscious on like an emotional, spiritual, like all kinds of levels. Like this was it. Holy crap. Like this was such a heart opener, and
Yes.
it like the floodgates just exploded open, and it was like there was no coming back.
Right.
There was just no coming back. And remember, guys, like trauma is like embedded in your cells,
Yeah.
like your cells. And this particular modality, oh my gosh, it was like there's no going back.
Right.
And it just kept pouring out and pouring out and pouring out. And like, I remember that night I was even feverish. I was like shaking, like my body was shaking.
Right.
And it felt like 5 years of therapy just crammed into 5 hours.
Right.
And I was hollow. I was so hollow and I was so empty. And I was like, okay, where's my energy? Like what happened to the on switch? Because everything is completely out and depleted. It was the most intense work I've ever done. And I feel like it was the same for you, right?
Yeah. And, to give you an idea of what exactly was happening, it's a group process. The people are actually where the healing happens.
Yeah.
The heart openers, the plants, are simply what help you feel safe enough to do that work.
Right.
They were what stopped us from bolting.
Right.
And running for our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And the people were where we were able to actually dig into this trauma and find a pathway out.
Right.
And so Juanique and I are both like practically catatonic. I mean, we're conversing.
Like our first night, the newbies.
But we're honestly, it felt like to me like I was just being passed from person to person.
Yeah.
And those people were saying exactly the things that I needed to hear.
Well, and this is really beautiful too, because like they were birthing us through this trauma and they could do it so well because they had done it too. Like they had been in similar positions. And so we should probably fast forward, because post this retreat, Tristan's now a different person. Like even his coughing improved. Like,
I don't know about that. The coughing is very much still there, and I've gone through periods where it's
better.
Awful.
It was really bad, like to the point where, like, when we got back from this retreat, your mom was like, man, Tristan's coughing is even better. So it's always been there, but it was so bad at one point, and then it just got better after that retreat.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So that was the start of it, right? It's not to say that, we went to do a retreat and then all of a sudden everything was better.
Right.
But what it did do was it changed our trajectory from this inevitable tragic demise to a hopeful, beautiful potential.
Yeah.
Right. And so I don't know, I've done like 12 since that one.
Right.
It's something that I try to do like every chance I get. But we've also started doing a whole bunch of other stuff.
Right.
I don't know how much detail we want to go into.
We won't go into too much detail, just other therapies and kind of treatment protocols for mind, body, spirit stuff. And that has been really beautiful.
And what's been really great about it is that once the trauma was taken away from the driver's seat, so it was no longer calling all the shots.
Yeah.
We started finding ourselves coming across exactly the right people and exactly the right information in the exact moment when we needed it.
Right.
Because we were no longer making all our decisions from a place of fear, but rather a place of love. Mm-hmm. We were presented with opportunities that never would have come to us before.
Right.
And so I think we should talk a little bit about what we are doing physically.
Yeah, we will.
I don't want people to get the impression that we've completely abandoned any kind of physical healing protocol.
But I do want to mention this. Like, I do believe that there is a chemical and a somato-emotional charge to all dis-ease and disease. Like
1,000%.
Disease is very symbolic in the body, like depending on where it manifests and what it is. Like, I do really believe in the emotional aspect of dis-ease and disease manifesting in your body.
Definitely.
And so that's why, yes, we have checked off all the chemical boxes, right? Nutrition, check. Food, check. Juicing, check. Like all of those things. But the reason why this year we've been so called to the somato-emotional aspect is because why did this happen in the first place? Like why did it come back? Like there's clearly something we didn't address. Tristan going from like cancer to doing so amazing on the therapies to it coming and raging back in conjunction with the trauma.
Yes.
Right. The trauma response. Like,
because the trauma was never dealt with.
It was never dealt with.
Very deep.
And then when you got sick, it triggered everything. And it was just like a downhill from there.
It was basically my body said, hey, this trauma, it's not working for me.
Right.
There isn't space in here for this. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to make you so painfully aware of it that you either have to do something about it or you're going to die.
Right. Yep. That's why this year, since we found out everything came back, it's like, okay, let's not look for those therapies and those treatments. Like, let's look at the underlying emotional charge behind this. Yeah.
Which
and
isn't
heal
to
that.
say, like, we tried a ton of stuff. It's not like we completely stopped all that. It just didn't have any effect because it was not what needed to happen at that point. Right. Nothing could break through the trauma wall that was surrounding my cells, so to speak.
Right. Totally.
And once again, once we were able to shift that momentum and surround ourselves with people who helped us to feel safe.
Yeah.
I think that's the right way to put that.
Right. And you guys, if you are like, hey, I need to deal with my trauma too, EMDR is an incredible therapy to like search out and start doing. Because
I know a better one though.
Are you going to mention it?
Sangha.
Sangha is fantastic. Like we're actually going to get that in our new clinic, Sangha therapy.
At some point we will have that.
We're going to do a podcast on it. Like that's something we've been doing and it's beautiful.
We're going to get Christy Warfel on to talk about this. I know.
I can't wait.
She basically invented this whole modality. It is, we'll let her go into the details of it, but it is absolutely amazing. Now, I was doing tons and tons of research on my own on how to deal with all this emotional stuff. Yeah. And I came up with what I thought was this really beautiful plan. And then I went to Christy after I met her and presented it to her. She's like, yeah, I know. I've already created a whole thing that integrates that plus a bunch more.
Yeah, like she already done it.
Oh, great. Well, then I'm going to do that.
It's super amazing. And we can't wait to bring it in our new clinic when it opens next year. But
and we can't wait to tell you about it when we get it on the show. It's going to be so awesome.
It's pretty insane. But so we're doing Sangha. We're, Tristan's doing these healing retreats. He's getting so much healing, you guys, like so much healing.
Oh, and then both are, right?
Both of us, right?
Like we haven't really talked about the experience of Juanique through all of this that much.
We don't need to talk about that. This is getting long.
It's its own form of trauma, though, to be the primary caretaker of someone going through what I've been going through, because they end up basically carrying the weight of the world. Like someone had to make sure that our household continued to function, that our business continued to function, and somebody needed to like literally keep me alive when I was threatening to completely shut down, right? Yeah. And that's traumatic because who does that person go to when they need support, right? And now we have that. We have so much amazing community support, right? And it's a beautiful thing.
It's really beautiful.
Which has freed us up to finally actually benefit from some of the different physical treatment systems out there, like the enzymes.
So what was really awesome was, okay, so we're doing all this emotional stuff and Ryan Blazer, our friend, is like, so I found the person that you guys are here in Idaho, and she's amazing, and she trains all these doctors, and she owes me a favor, and she's not taking clients, but I'm going to see if she'll take you guys on. And we're like, who is this person? Anyways, she was amazing. She's like, yeah, we need to get started right away. I'll take you on. She's got like such nurturing, like grandma vibes, but also like a little bit scary too.
She's just direct.
She's super direct.
She doesn't soften the blow for you. No,
she doesn't.
She cares more about your life than your feelings.
Exactly. So anyway, so somehow miraculously we get in with her, start this enzyme therapy. It's called the Kelly enzymes. Is that correct? For other people that are curious.
So this was not something new to me. I had come across the Kelly protocol, which is using these really high power enzymes years ago. But the number of people that understand it well enough to do it the right way.
Not many.
There's not a lot of them out there.
But this Pamela, she is the person that trains the doctors.
She basically was one of the co-creators of this protocol.
Right.
And she spends all of her time training other doctors how to do it.
Like doctors in Europe, doctors here. Like she's always talking about like her European clients and doctors that she's training. And
so for her to be willing to take on an actual client is honestly a little bit miraculous.
Right. But she did.
And once again, because everything was lining up for us. We had ourselves in the right place emotionally.
Right.
So that opportunity was suddenly available.
Right.
Which is beautiful.
Yep. So long story short, I mean, what are you doing? You're doing the enzymes now. You're doing the coffee enemas, sauna every day.
Coffee enemas every day, 2 a day.
Now you have to do 2 a day.
Sauna every day. A whole bunch of supplements.
What's interesting is when you started doing coffee enemas and sauna, that's when your voice started going away.
So a few weeks ago, before I started the full protocol, I started doing sauna and coffee enemas. Literally the next day, my voice disappears. I don't know if it's related or not.
Right.
But I thought it was going to be like a 3-day experience. We're going on like
I think 3 weeks. I don't know.
which is a little bit frustrating.
I know.
Especially when I finally feel like I've got so much to say.
So much to say.
But it's actually been a really great lesson for me because my tendency is to escape the discomfort of my experience by going outward and connecting with other people, talking to them about their experiences, helping them, right?
Right, and not going within
and
checking in on.
Excuse me. What this has done is it has forced me to slow down because I literally, like, the more excited I get, the worse my voice gets. So it forces me to slow down, calm down, stay internal, and work on me.
Right.
Because obviously that's the most important thing right now.
Right. So long story short, that's where we're at, is we are doing this really incredible enzyme therapy, the Kelly protocol. If you are a cancer listener and you are interested, one of Pamela's students, his name is Dr. Eric Wood.
And to call him a student is not very accurate.
No, because they co-wrote a book together that's coming out next year.
She trained him, but he is very much an expert.
She says he is like her top student or one of them. And so Dr. Eric Wood, ND or MD, I can't remember.
I think he's a naturopath.
So I think his website is Dr. Eric Wood, ND. .com or something.
I think maybe he's an MD.
So if you guys, I can't remember, but just Google him, and if you want, you can set up like a free 15-minute phone call with him to talk about it and see if it's a good fit for you, if you're interested in it. But
obviously we're not endorsing this because we've only just now started.
Right.
I have no idea what the outcome's going to be. However, I can say that already
you're feeling stuff.
I'm not even a week in, and stuff is happening.
Yeah, it's been really intense.
Yeah.
Like it's really kicked your ass.
Yes, it has.
And what's really cute too is Pamela, when I was like, hey, because she says, okay, start dosing your enzymes with 7 times a day. And I'm like, can he do 2? And she's like, if you want him to be very uncomfortable, then yes. And I'm like, okay. And then she says to me, she's like, you also need to go and get some trauma therapy done, because that question tells me a lot about where you're at right now. Yeah. She's really adorable. And like we said, very direct. And so no, it's a very powerful enzyme therapy. And, we talk with Pamela every week, and we change protocols, and she's, tracking labs and amino acid profiles, and, we're taking it 1 week at a time.
So here's the good news so far.
Yeah.
We've done a bunch of testing recently.
Yeah.
Because we're at the start of this new protocol, and we want to kind of get our baseline.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
My trajectory, like I said, leading up to the beginning of October was
bad.
Downhill very rapidly. But the test that we just got back today, looked at today, I'm stable. Right?
Super stable.
Like, things have stabilized. They have not gotten worse. In some areas, they've gotten better, which is really great news.
Right.
And that's before we actually started this protocol.
Right.
Which means that the benefits
of just
that I've had are almost purely from the emotional
aspects. Yeah, totally. Awesome. It's so awesome.
The other thing is I did a GI effects, which is a stool sample test. Really cool one, by the way. If you ever want to get a really deep view at what's going on in your gut, highly recommended.
Yeah.
No inflammation.
Yeah.
I should say very little inflammation.
Right.
Which was a big relief, because one of the big fears with this cancer recurrence is that it's going to recur in
your gut,
in the colorectal area, right? And that's a really good sign that that's not happening.
Right.
It's not a guarantee, obviously.
Right.
But no inflammation is a great, great sign.
Yeah. And so there's been a lot of really positive things that have been happening. Obviously, we're still really stressed, but like overall, just tons of hope, and Tristan's job right now is to just lay low and work on his body and work on his healing, and just create warm fuzzies around him wherever he goes, like a bubble of love and positivity.
Yep. So I'm living in a distortion field right now.
What are you talking about?
I mean, that, like, literally my life is not normal. I am very, very, very blessed. And that's one of the really cool things looking back over this year, as difficult as it has been. You can see how everything was lined up perfectly.
I know.
To enable things to be the way they are now.
Yeah.
The fact that I don't have to anymore spend all my time working on the business to
Right.
keep it going
Right.
is really
beautiful.
miraculous, because a year ago that was not the
I
case.
know we couldn't afford to like
6 months
hire
ago,
anyone to do it for
6 months
us.
ago, that would not have been able to happen.
Right.
And it literally happened the moment that we needed it to happen,
Totally.
which is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Like that's really, there you go, guys. Like, so if you have been watching and you've been seeing how like disorganized we are and like
Or if you've noticed that I have
inconsistent,
like massively faded from the podcast over the last few months,
right?
it's not because I lost interest.
No,
It's because I
taking care of
just
you.
didn't have the space, and now I don't have the voice. So now I sit on the interviews silently, not because I have nothing to say, but because it's too much work to say it.
Right.
I will literally like text Juanique what I want her to say.
It's true. So I guess we just wanted to pour out our hearts and our souls to you guys to just, I feel like sharing authentically is so important.
Yeah.
And to just show you like we're still learning and we're still figuring it out.
Yeah.
But massive thank yous, like massive thank you to everyone who still listens, people who support our business. Like, and we're not the perfect business, you guys. Like
No.
we're trying to figure out the organization and the shipping and oh my gosh, the shipping.
There's
But
a lot
we're
of chaos, but that's
we're fixing it because we
every
want you
single-
guys to have a better user experience with
Right.
our company.
Yeah,
And,
for sure.
you know, but we just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who supports us
Yeah.
and you shop small and you appreciate the products and the information and you love it, you know, because really like our heart and our soul is all about giving good information and excellent products
Yeah.
because you deserve it. You deserve the best of the best without the BS and the fake marketing and the most important thing to companies being the dollar sign
Right.
at the end of the day. That is not where our heads and our hearts are at.
And honestly, like, it means the world to us that you trust what we have to say.
Right.
It means the world to us that some of you actually follow through with
I know.
everything that we recommend.
Right.
And it means the world to us that you tell us about your wins,
Yeah.
because we need that.
We love the wins, you guys.
do.
Oh my gosh. They just recharge us so much. And the best wins, not the best because there's so many great
They're
wins,
all
but
the best.
they're all the best. But some of the most like amazing wins, people I've never met, people that have never walked into our clinic,
Right.
and they just took some advice from a podcast
Yeah.
and they implemented it and it's like changed their
We
life.
got results.
And
Yeah.
like that's what it's all about. It's
Yeah.
just about giving information to people so you can feel like you have the means to make informed decisions over your body, because you guys, your body is the most incredible gift that will ever be bestowed to you in this lifetime.
Yeah.
It's the thing that has been with you since the day you were born,
Right.
and it's the thing that will be with you until you die.
Yes.
Even family come and go. They will never be with us forever. Never. Not even a mom, dad, a sibling, no one.
Mm.
It's just you. It's this, literally this meat sack that your soul resides in. Like you're this walking,
That's
talking like meat,
Yummy.
this piece of meat, right? And it's the most miraculous thing that has ever been given to us. And like just, it does billions of processes for you a day without you even having to think about it. The fact that you are sitting listening to this podcast means that your body is gifting you with life.
Right.
And you might be in pain and you might be uncomfortable right now, but there's so many things your body has been doing with you in spite of the stress, in spite of the traumas, in spite of the abuse that we put on our bodies, in spite of the negative messages that we give it, in spite of the demands that we give it, right? It always shows up. And that's what, you know, like even in Tristan's situation, especially in Tristan's situation, you know, we can sit here and yes, there's cancer in his lungs. And yes, he has a hard time getting upstairs. And yes, there's all of these other things. But the miracle like that we focus on or try to, you know, and on the hard days is you're sitting here and you're still breathing.
Yeah.
And you can still hold your children.
Yeah.
You can still talk to us.
Right.
You can still snuggle. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Like we can still snuggle.
Right.
Like you're not in pain.
No.
You've been getting headaches this week and we think it's the
Well,
enzymes, but
Yeah. But
like there's no
honestly,
pain.
Like I've had to work really hard on my relationship with my body.
Right.
That has not been
That hasn't been easy.
something that came naturally to me ever in my life. And I have been working especially hard on that over the last really recent while.
Right.
And I can tell you it makes a difference.
Yeah.
It makes such a difference to be able to appreciate your body,
Right.
to see its strengths and not just its flaws,
Right.
right? To believe in it and to trust it.
Right.
We have a really dear friend of ours, he's a magical person.
Yeah.
And he has this saying that he always shares with people, which is to tell your body, I love you, I'm listening. To tell your heart, I love you, I'm listening.
Yeah.
And if you can do that, your body will tell you what it needs and what it wants.
Right.
And then all you have
Well,
to
it
do
has
is
been for
provide.
years.
I know.
Our bodies tell us, like they've been telling us for years and
Yes.
years. Like think of when you were a teenager and you would get bloated after meals, right? Or you had hormonal imbalances, right? Like your body has been talking to you ever since you can remember, but we just didn't listen.
No.
But we let doctors talk for us to our bodies.
Yes.
And the message that they told our bodies was shut up and take some hormone.
Right.
Shut up and take some ibuprofen. Like that's the message we give our bodies.
Yeah. We learn to override the messages from our bodies.
Right.
And so our bodies eventually stop speaking to us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we think, oh, we're doing fine. We're not in pain.
Right. Or our bodies went from whispering to yelling,
Yes.
and then we get insulted, right?
Ultimately,
we're like, my
that's what
body has
happened.
let me down. My body has done this to me. I'm now a prisoner of my body.
Right.
Meanwhile, the body has been saying, I've been talking to you for so long.
Right.
Right. So this isn't to shame anyone and be like, why weren't you listening? Because trust us, we haven't been listening for a year. Like here we are. Like
I've been listening for a lot longer.
we
than
haven't
that.
like, we're like cancer. What are you talking about? This can't be cancer.
We thought that we could beat my body into submission, right? First through chemo, and then through the hockey,
the radiation,
and even the hyperbaric. Like, I really believed that if I could just pound enough therapeutic stuff into my body, that it would beat it into submission. It would say, okay, fine, I'll give it the cancer.
Right.
Meanwhile, my body had very different ideas.
Right.
And it was telling me all along, hey, trauma. Deal with the trauma.
Right. Deal with the stress.
And now I'm finally listening, and we are seeing bounds and leaps of improvement over where we've been a long time.
Exactly.
So we have no idea where this ends, of course.
No idea.
And that's a whole other part of this process, which is making friends with death, because regardless of how we go, we all go.
Yeah.
And we don't really get to decide when we go.
Don't.
So figuring that piece out is also extremely important. But there's hope and optimism and all kinds of beautiful stuff going on.
Right. I do want to say, I mean, I think we're probably finishing up now, but I do want to say that, yes, this has been the worst year probably of our lives.
Oh, yeah.
And it's been the best year of our lives. Like that feels so weird to say. Almost like, ew, like how could I even appreciate this? But this has been the most beautiful, hardest journey we have ever embarked on.
Yeah.
And it keeps getting better and better and better. And from extreme darkness and like hitting the rock bottom of rock bottom and feeling so much despair and helplessness and like just so much anxiety.
I thought I hit rock bottom like 5 different times this year.
No, it just got deeper and deeper and deeper.
Rock bottom got deeper and deeper. I was dragging along the rocks for months.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, it's been rough.
Yeah.
But contrast is what actually gives life its joy.
Right.
Without the darkness, without the rock bottom, there would be no light. There would be no soaring in the clouds.
Yeah. There's been a lot of collateral beauty on this journey.
For sure.
A lot. Yep. And we're so very grateful, and we're very open now. Like we're just, everything makes sense.
Right. We finally have enough people around us that believe in us, believe in my body, that we're willing to share this publicly.
Right.
Because we no longer fear whatever anxiety other people have for me.
Right.
So we welcome it, and we get you. Like you're probably experiencing your own form of health anxiety of one form or the other.
Right.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Like there are people that understand that.
Yeah. There is one more thing I want to say to any of our cancer listeners out there. We did close down the cancer consults this year while we were going through this, and we got a lot of really angry emails.
Yep.
And we just want to say, we're sorry we couldn't show up for you.
Yep.
We couldn't show up for ourselves.
Right.
Like, we were in the midst of trauma, and just talking about caseloads on cancer, it just put us in a massive, it's really interesting because there've been so many consults this year where I'm sitting in a consult and I'm literally having a panic attack while doing like an intake on someone's health, and I'm going over labs, and I'm literally sweating, and in my head I'm like, I'm so glad these are like video calls over the internet, because if we were in person, they could like probably see my body vibrating from my heart beating so fast and me sweating. So we're sorry because of what we've been going through. Like, I do feel like we have let people down that have been wanting to talk with us. And there's been a lot of angry people that are like, well, I want to schedule with Juanique and like, or Tristan, and they're booked months out. And now we're taking time off so that we can just focus on this.
Yeah. And now you know why.
But now you know why. Now you know why. It's hard to show up for other people's healing when I couldn't even show up for Tristan's. But we're trying to balance it because you guys are important to us. Like, your healing journeys are important to us. And we have incredible wellness counselors that you can schedule with at Prova Health. They are fantastic. And if they're ever stumped on a case, they just text us, and we go through that with them. But
you better believe that depending on how this whole deal goes for me, once I get to the other side of it, I will be sharing, I promise.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna share everything.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be ready to provide that to people.
Right.
I couldn't do that before. One of the ways I knew that I wasn't listening to my body was that I kept doing these cancer consultations and traumatizing myself.
Yeah.
And it would ruin my week.
Right.
Like, it would put me in a dark place for a long time.
Right.
And that was because I hadn't dealt with my own trauma.
Right.
Now that's finally happening.
Right.
So now we will finally, when we get there, be ready to hold space for others and to provide some of that same insight and show the light at the end of the tunnel for other people.
Absolutely. I know it sounds so insulting to be like, I'm grateful for cancer. I am. I'm grateful for this journey. It's been hard and it's been beautiful and it's been refiner's fire times 10.
Yes.
But there has been so many beautiful moments, and like, I can't help but sit here in gratitude for the lessons and being in such a desperate state that I would be willing to try like these insane things, right? Like,
absolutely. And
thank God that they worked. Like, so grateful for all of these beautiful modalities that we've come across, these beautiful people, like wise people. Yeah.
Yeah, but we had to jump off the proverbial cliff to get there. And honestly, it was like less than 50% chance that we would find ground.
Yeah. Right.
So, but yeah, brace yourself for the cringe, but I wouldn't change a minute of it. I wouldn't.
I mean, I
I wouldn't. Because every single step, every single panic attack was necessary to get on the path that we're on now.
Right.
And it keeps getting better and better now.
Right. What's really interesting is even Pamela, the doctor that we're working with, she was like, your number one thing is to work on the stress and the trauma. She's like, health literally turns around once you deal with trauma. Yep. And we're like, yeah, well, we're working on it. Like, we're doing all of the trauma stuff right now. So that's like really where like 50% of our energy goes, is to just working on the stress and the self-care and the trauma and the community.
I keep saying this, but like, find yourself a beautiful community, because they can make all the difference in the world. Every social interaction I have is therapeutic now. Yeah. That was not the case for me 3 months ago.
Yeah. So you guys, thanks for listening. I hope that if you're still listening, I don't know. People probably tuned out. They're like, meh.
This might have been a little bit self-indulgent. But
I know, right?
It's therapy for us.
I guess.
It's getting it out there.
Yeah. This isn't the season finale. There's still episodes coming. We've been interviewing a lot of guests, and Tristan's had his sexy, raspy, non-existent voice. So you're going to be hearing a lot of podcasts with sexy voice Tristan, and there's more to come. Yep. And regardless, we'll just keep going. Like, the information isn't going to end. And
we'll keep updating you, as we have updates to give.
Yeah.
So, the cliffhanger is Tristan's cancer is back.
Yeah.
But season 3 is just starting.
I know.
So,
and this really has been the most beautiful journey ever.
Yeah.
Like, I am super grateful for everything that we've learned and everything that we've been forced to learn, you know, like
and the ripple effects on the world around us.
ripple effects.
People who had no interest whatsoever in what we're doing are benefiting from this.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful.
You know, let's just think of 2020 and the lemons that we have been given, you guys. I truly believe that we can always make lemonade. Like, there's always a way to make lemonade out of hard situations. And if everything was easy, we wouldn't need to grow. We wouldn't need to learn. We wouldn't, like, sometimes we have to get so uncomfortable to have, like, sometimes that space of discomfort is the only catalyst that can move us.
I would argue always.
It's always,
growth always requires leaving your comfort zone.
It does.
So if you haven't been uncomfortable for a long time,
right,
take a close look at what's going on.
But also, too, you guys, I do hope that not, like, before, and I realized this was my trauma response, too, where it's like, don't let this happen to you. Like, you could get cancer. Look at these statistics. Everything is scary. The world is a terrible, scary place, and we're all going to get sick. I don't want to come from that place anymore. But I want to share the story, and I want to kindly encourage you to take charge now before you get so uncomfortable.
Let our experience be your catalyst. So it doesn't have to be your experience.
But I don't want it to be the catalyst of fear. I want it to be the catalyst of this is important, like, and that you are worth it. Like the investment now is so worth it. You know, it's that saying, a ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure. And that is 100% true.
All right.
So that's why we're here, because if we can just save one person from this kind of, like, soul wrenching pain and discomfort and trauma, like, it's all worth it. It's all worth it. So
100%.
You guys, thanks for being here. Thanks for being along our Gutsy health journey. And it's always a journey. We're always journeying. We're always just learning and growing and, you know, learning to be experts in our bodies and our health. And I'm excited for the path where this is all going to go as we incorporate more mind, body, soul stuff. It's just going to be really beautiful. And we can't wait to share that with you guys, because it's so important. And I've said a few times, like, I wish we started there with the mind, body, but they're all important.
We still had stuff to learn. So.
We still had stuff to learn.
Yep.
So we love you guys. Thanks
for
listening.
Honestly, like, some of the best moments over this last year, even during the darkest times, were talking to you, working with you guys, helping you and being helped by you. So thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much for being a part of this for us.
Thank you for your patience with us as we go through this, and we selfishly take more time to ourselves and our family. Thank you for constantly supporting us, constantly sharing the podcast, constantly sharing your empowering stories with us and your friends and your family. It takes a village, you know, and it takes a village to change the culture of health, to change the culture in our children, our families, our communities. And I hope that we see, and the changes, they're going to come from the bottom up. They're not going to come from the top down. It's going to come from us.
Yes.
Like you, your neighbor, your friends, your family. It's going to be the people that are going to have to make those changes. And we can all do that lovingly. We can all change ourselves, our children, our communities, just one small conversation at a time. So thank you for being here. Thank you for practicing those hard conversations.
We will talk to you soon. We love you. Bye-bye.
And Merry Christmas. I think this is going to come out before our birthdays and Christmas. So
maybe.
Have a very good Christmas, you guys.
Bye.